Ready to level up? Chumba Casino is your playbook to fun. It's free to play with no purchase necessary. Enjoy hundreds of casino-style games like bingo, slots, and solitaire anytime, anywhere with fresh releases every week. Whether you're at home or on the go, let Chumba Casino bring the excitement to you. Plus, get free daily login bonuses and a free welcome bonus. Join now for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Play Chumba Casino today. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. T&Cs apply.
Yeah, sure thing.
Hey, you sold that car yet?
Yeah, sold it to Carvana.
Oh, I thought you were selling to that guy.
The guy who wanted to pay me in foreign currency, no interest, over 36 months? Yeah, no. Carvana gave me an offer in minutes, picked it up, and paid me on the spot. It was so convenient.
Just like that.
Yeah.
No hassle.
None.
That is super convenient.
Sell your car to Carvana and swap hassle for convenience. Pickup fees may apply.
It's time. Time to get in the zone. With the 49ers Web Zone. This is the No Huddle Podcast with Al and Brian.
This is the 49ers Web Zone No Huddle Podcast. We are back. Not a lot to talk about this time of year when the Niners aren't in the playoffs, but still some stuff to go over. I'm Al Sacco. He's Brian Renick. And I know, Brian, I'm going to tell you this because I got to talk to Brian before we went on the air. Brian's not super happy right now. Brian's a little bit like, what is going on with the 49ers in their DC search and their special teams coordinator search? And I have some questions too. I think this is going to make for a good conversation. So, Brian, I'll just let you say, you just start us off, man. How you feeling? I know you're not feeling great, so.
No, I am disillusioned. I am irritated. I'm infuriated. I am all of these things. Here's the bottom line. Here's what I don't understand. It has been a month since the 49ers season has ended. And in their press conference, they talked about the advantage that they had when searching for a new defensive coordinator that they didn't have last year, in that they had to wait till the Super Bowl ended. All that stuff, right? They got to get a head start. They got to interview, they're going to get to interview they've interviewed exactly 3 candidates for the defensive coordinator position and exactly 3 candidates for the special teams coordinator position. And they did not reach out again, as far as we know. Obviously this may not be exactly the case, but as much as we like to say the 49ers don't leak, this kind of information gets out. If they were reaching out to other coordinators, other people, we would have known about it. They didn't reach out to Dennis Allen. They didn't reach out to Lou Anarumo. They didn't reach out to Al Golden. They didn't reach out to these guys that, are established defensive coordinators that could come in, that could possibly, put their own spin a little bit on things, refresh the scheme a little bit, whatever you may want to say. And they didn't reach out to him. And now Dennis Allen is going to Chicago, and Lou Anarumo is in Indianapolis, and Al Golden is in Cincinnati. And all of these teams are hiring defensive coordinators, and the 49ers are waiting on Robert Saleh and just crossing their fingers that he doesn't get a head coaching job. And as it currently stands, he is one of the front runners in Jacksonville. And his next interview is not even until Friday. And so that is frustrating. But regardless of the DC search, I don't understand why there isn't a special teams coordinator hire already. John Fossil, a well-respected special teams coordinator in NFL circles, has been let go and hired by another team already. Darren Rizzi, who was the special teams coordinator in New Orleans, who doesn't currently have a job, hasn't been brought in. They've interviewed some assistants. Again, I just don't understand the process, or maybe there isn't a process, and that's the problem. But it just makes zero sense to me, and it brings me to this idea that, again, Kyle Shanahan is just so arrogant and so stubborn and so inflexible with anything that it's like Robert Saleh or bust. And it's like, you are going to set yourself up for Brandon Staley and Nick Sorensen as your defensive coordinator and your special teams coordinator. And let me tell you what, you are going to piss off a shitload of fans if that's how you end up with this search, if you will, because here's the thing, Brandon Staley already here. You didn't hire him last year, and you could have. You still brought him in. We don't know what he did, but he was still a part of this disastrous defensive performance last year. And you're going to sell that to the fans like, well, look, this is an upgrade over Nick Sorensen. Well, then why wasn't he hired last year? Or why wasn't he given the reins when Nick Sorensen was floundering all season? So again, and then Nick Sorensen, who shit the bed as a defensive coordinator, is now just going to get the special teams coordinator job because you like him and he coached special teams in Jacksonville for a season. It just doesn't make sense. And there are certain things out there that make it seem like maybe this isn't always, or this isn't the end of what this is going to be. Mike Silver even said like it's his understanding that Nick Sorensen probably isn't going to be the special teams coordinator. So that gives me a little bit of hope, but it's just, I just don't understand. How are you not reaching out to 4, 5, 6 guys that you're bringing in, regardless of whether you think they should be the DC or not, just to get ideas, right? I mean, you did that last year with Chiefs assistants. Like, why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you bringing in assistants from other defenses just to possibly, pick their brains or whatever and say, you know what, maybe we do need to change some things up on defense. And I know there's no room to make wholesale changes. Like, you can't bring somebody in that's like, hey, I want to run a 3-4. You can't do that, but you can at least get new ideas. And they just haven't. It just seems like they're just doing nothing, and it's really frustrating.
So you're 100% right. And I think to me with Saleh, I didn't think he had a prayer to get a head coaching job. And that's maybe me just not having an idea what I'm talking about. But I live in New York, and the consensus here is he didn't really do a good job. So when he was let go, and I know he was consulting with the Packers, as this offseason hit, I'm like, well, he's going to be a DC somewhere. He's a slam dunk for the 49ers. This is a slam dunk. Maybe they thought the same thing, but as the coaching cycle has gone on, he's gotten interest. And right or wrong, the way that the Rooney he
satisfies the Rooney rule
is what I said. That's what I'm looking for. He satisfies the Rooney rule. So right or wrong, and how broken that system is, he still does. So some of these interviews may have had something to do with that, but not in Jacksonville. He is a real candidate there.
Yeah.
And I thought at first, well, the one place he could get this job is Jacksonville, because people don't want to work with Baalke, and if he wants to go back there, they'll hire him. And now Baalke's out.
I love it. It's so funny.
Which is crazy. What does he have on these owners that even gets to this point where he's like a cockroach, man? But he is out now because Shad Khan gets the idea, or he figured out that I'm not going to get a coach with him here. Nobody wants to work with him.
I think Baalke cost them the guy that they wanted, who was Liam Cohen, the offensive coordinator for the Buccaneers, who removed himself. Now,
does he circle back?
Well, so here's the thing: is the information came out today that Liam Cohen removed himself from consideration, and then also news broke that Tampa Bay was going to make him one of the highest paid coordinators in the NFL. Since Baalke's been fired, more information has come out that Cohen hasn't signed that contract extension. So it's possible that Khan was like, listen, this is the guy I want. And my impediment to getting him is this guy that I should have fired seasons ago. So I'm going to fire him now. And then maybe we can go back around and see if we can't, entice him to come here. Now, you're going to have to pay him a lot, because you're going to have to pay him more than what Tampa Bay was willing to. And the rumor was that Vic Fangio is making $4.5 million as a defensive coordinator for the Eagles. Yeah. And word was that he's going to be essentially in that same range. So again, you're going to have to pay Liam Cohen $5, $6, $7 million if you're going to entice him to Jacksonville, and maybe they're prepared to do that. But Baalke's firing does give me more, I guess, confidence that maybe Saleh won't be the guy there, because now they can attract a guy that they want, which is an offensive-minded head coach. But it's still, just putting all your eggs in one basket is not a smart and smooth process. And that's the part that's frustrating to me.
Yeah, and that's what it seems where they are. Where now, I still think it's an upset if Saleh isn't the defensive coordinator. I do. I really do feel that way. Jacksonville is the only job that I really think is a possibility for him, and it does sound like they want an offensive guy. And I think it was Mike Silver and maybe a couple other people have said that they may extend the search. So even though Saleh is going to be there this week, if they're going to extend the search, he's certainly not a slam dunk there. And the names you heard were Joe Brady and Kellen Moore, offensive guys. So maybe that is what they want to do. Look, Jacksonville has no idea.
They probably should with what they're paying Trevor Lawrence. You probably do want
to. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Because if not, you have to have this defensive coach bring in somebody, and who's the coordinator going to be? Isn't it going to help Lawrence? But yeah, it seems like the Niners put all their eggs in this basket. So what are the alternatives if it falls through? Well, Pete Carroll's name got brought up today, which
it's not Jeff Ulbrich because he's in Atlanta now.
He's in Atlanta, and Pete Carroll. So Tim Kawakami brought up that the Niners may possibly reach out to him if they haven't already. That's all well and good. Why in God's name would Pete Carroll, who's been the head coach in the league for 18 years, who's won a Super Bowl, he might go to the Hall of Fame, or he's going to be close to it probably. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. He's a winning head coach. He's going to come back at 74 years old to be the defensive coordinator of a team that was his rival for over a decade. And I know he was the defensive coordinator in 95 and 96 for the Niners, which propelled him to being a head coach. I get that. But he's going to give me a break. That feels like a couple things to me. One, maybe the Niners just shooting their shot if they did, in fact, reach out to him. Yeah. Similar to what they did to Belichick and Spagnuolo. Or it's damage control if they lose, they're like, okay, if we lose out on Saleh, and Kawakami also said there was some anxiety in the Niners building.
Yeah, there should be.
As there should be. If we lose out on Saleh, we can say we went after Pete Carroll. It didn't work out. And here's your defensive coordinator,
Brandon Staley.
Which to me, here is my thing right now, okay? Brandon Staley, if they hire Brandon Staley as defensive coordinator and or Nick Sorensen as special teams coordinator, you cannot sell that to fans. People will lose their minds. And and again, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's on the table right now. Here's my first question, Brian. If Brandon Staley is ever made the defensive coordinator of this team, the first question, if I was in the room, I'm not, but if I was in the room, the first question I would say is, what was his role last season?
Right.
With the defense, and how did that translate to Nick Sorensen and what was on the field? That's what I want to know. What was his role? How did that translate to the defensive coordinator? Was he part of the game plan? Was he working with Sorensen? Was he sort of above Sorensen? Because he was an assistant head coach, right? Wasn't that his title?
Yep.
So was he sort of working above Sorensen? What was that dynamic? That's what I want to know. What was his role? What was that dynamic? Because if you're bringing in someone who had a big role in the defense this past year, which wasn't good, and there were a lot of issues, how in God's name can you sell that? And Nick Sorensen is special teams coach. That's just throwing your buddy a bone. Right. When his only time was with Jacksonville, where he was a special teams coach, and they were horrible. They were
horrible. Yep.
So you can't sell that at all. And that's a little bit scary to me. And I still am 80% that Saleh's going to be the defensive coordinator here. I really am. But if it's not, like, you're right. They put all their eggs in one basket, and it's like, holy shit.
Well, and Brandon Staley, like hiring Brandon Staley when you had a full month to interview any candidate that you could bring in is desperate. And it's desperate in that you screwed yourself over by just having tunnel vision for one guy. And I understand wanting to bring Robert Saleh back. You have coached with him before. You have a great relationship. You have succeeded with him. He was the defensive coordinator when you went to the Super Bowl the first time. It was a great defense. Once they got talent on that side of the ball, they've got decent talent. They've got a decent core in that they've got a stud at each level of the defense now. But you don't have the players to run Robert Saleh's defense the way that he ran it in San Francisco before he left and the way that he ran it in New York. You don't have guys on the interior. You don't have a pass rusher opposite Nick Bosa. You have Diamador Lenore and you've got Renardo Green, but you need another guy that can either be a shutdown guy on the outside so you can bump Lenore inside during nickel, or find a nickel and just keep Lenore outside. There are things that you need to run Robert Saleh's scheme to the best of its ability that you don't have right now. But I think to me, again, it reeks of arrogance as well, because it's like, what makes this particular destination, 49ers defensive coordinator, that appealing to Robert Saleh when he's just coming off being a head coach, is getting head coaching interviews during this cycle. And there are going to be other defensive coordinator openings. The Lions need a defensive coordinator. Aaron Glenn is going to be the head coach of the Jets. Robert Saleh is from Michigan. Like, what makes you think that he is, that he would just be like, yeah, I'll come back.
Right.
So again, why aren't you looking at other places? That's what, it just doesn't make any sense.
There were so many. You brought them up. There were so many guys out there.
The second question I would ask is, why didn't you hire Brandon Staley as your defensive coordinator last year? What's the difference between last year and this year that tells you, hey, Brandon Staley is our guy? He wasn't your guy last year. He was on staff for a defense that was terrible. And now you're going to give him the reins, because why?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I don't get. So that's where, to me, again, desperation, like, look, we wanted one guy and it was Robert Saleh and we didn't get him. So now we have to pivot, but we have to pivot to Brandon Staley because we didn't even bring in any other guys besides Deshae Townsend, who could end up being the defensive coordinator in Detroit now that Aaron Glenn has left, and Jeff Ulbrich, who is gone already. So again, why have you only interviewed 3 people? Why? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. It's just, the process is so flawed, and it didn't need to be, because you had all the time in the world and you just sat on your hands because you thought, oh, I'll just call up Bobby and he'll come. Well, no, that's pathetic. It's pathetic. And no special teams coordinator.
Right.
Like, you didn't even have to wait for anybody.
Even for all that, what are you waiting for the special teams coordinator? Like, what are we waiting for? What are we doing?
Where'd you get those shoes? Easy. They're from DSW. Because DSW has the exact right shoes for whatever you're into right now. You know, like the sneakers that make office hours feel like happy hour. The boots that turn grocery aisles into runways. And all the styles that show off the many sides of you, from daydreamer to multitasker and everything in between. Because you do it all in really great shoes. Find a shoe for every you at your DSW store or dsw.com.
There's one thing that will forever change the way you sleep, and it's the softest 100% organic cotton sheets from Boll & Branch. You'll fall asleep faster, wrapped in the most luxurious comfort. You'll never sleep hot again with sheets that feel breathable to sleep in. You'll experience the purest softness on night 1 and feel your sheets get even softer with every wash. Discover the difference with 15% off your first set of sheets at bollandbranch.com with code Odyssey. Exclusions apply. See site for details.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there are no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/listen. Just go to Indeed.com/listen right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/listen. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
The Niners are at a crossroads. This regime's at a bit of a crossroads. They just had a horrible season. Things haven't really been working out. They have to get these hires right. And even for, I'll say this, for whoever the defensive coordinator is, they need a lot of help on the roster too, to the point where I was reading, I forgot what I was reading, but it had to do with sort of what the Niners should do in the draft and what positions they need. And I'm thinking to myself, there's not a position that's really off the board. They need help everywhere. So we'll see what happens in free agency. But yeah, do they need a couple defensive linemen? Absolutely. Do they need a center? Absolutely. Do they need these things? Absolutely. But I wouldn't turn away from any position. best player available, man. Like this is a deep draft at running back. Do you need running back? Yeah, you do, because McCaffrey's pushing 30 and Garendo looks like a complementary piece. That's really it. Maybe they're not going to re-sign Jordan Mason likely after this year. Like he's probably going to be his last year with the Niners. Grendo's gotten hurt. Mason's gotten hurt. Running back may be a position that they need. You need somebody to keep over for Trent Williams. You need a backup quarterback. You need another receiver because Brandon Ayuk's going to be out. You need help all over the defense. You need a linebacker. You need a corner. You need a safety. You need 5 defensive linemen. Like they need so much help. So part of what is going to happen with this new DC as well, like it's just not an easy button. It's just not an easy fix. They have to fix this roster too. So I just think that's part of it. Yeah. This is the hire right now. And this is what we're talking about. But after that happens, there's still a lot to fix.
Yeah. And like I said, you don't have the guys to run Robert Saleh's defense the way that Robert Saleh wants to run it. So if that's your guy, you better sell to him that, hey, here's our plan. Like, hey, here's what we want to do. Here's the guys that we're targeting in free agency. Here's who we're looking at in the draft. Like, you better have something for him because again, there's nothing here for him that he can't get somewhere else like Detroit if that was on the table. Or, does he want to be a defensive coordinator for one of these first-time head coaches? There's going to be, the Cowboys still need their head coach. The Raiders still need their head coach. I think that's it. I think those are the only two. Oh, obviously the Jaguars. And I don't think he would go to Jacksonville to be the defensive coordinator if he doesn't get the head coaching job there. But there are so many things that have to happen to make this team a viable Super Bowl contender. But they can. I mean, there is a world in which this offseason catapults them onto another run if they make smart signings in free agency, if they draft well, and if they bring somebody in that is a legitimate defensive coordinator. And that's where, like I said, a Dennis Allen, a Lou Anarumo, right? Like bring somebody in that is established in the league. Look, I said last year, I advocated for Brandon Staley, and I advocated for Brandon Staley because it was after the Super Bowl and there weren't a lot of options out there. And he was probably the best of what was out there. And that was fine then, but that's not the case now. So I'm not advocating for Brandon Staley because there were much better options available there. Brandon Staley has been a defensive coordinator exactly one season in the NFL. Was he really successful? 100%. Did he also coordinate a defense that had Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey? Yes, he did. Is there an Aaron Donald or a Jalen Ramsey on this team? No, there is not. And then you look at his defenses in in LA with the Chargers. And granted, I do think there is something to be said about there are just some guys who are built to be coordinators, not head coaches. And maybe that is the case. And there was just too much on his plate, which is why the defense fell off. And because he was focused on more things. I will admit that, but you're still only going off of one season of elite defensive play. When you had guys like, and I keep harping on it, Dennis Allen, who's had years and years of it, and you didn't even bring him in for an interview. Now there are people that I've bitched and moaned on Twitter a lot about this, and people have replied like, well, maybe Dennis Allen just had a handshake deal with Ben Johnson saying, look, you're going to get a head coaching job this cycle. I'll be your defensive coordinator. Maybe that's the case. I don't know, but at least bring him in for an interview. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. And like I said, it just reeks of arrogance and stubbornness in that you're like, listen, this is our system and we're not going away from it, even though, it seems like teams have started to figure it out a little bit. Now, Pete Carroll, that's an interesting name. You brought up earlier. Yeah. But Pete Carroll's also a name in Vegas for the head coaching job. So
he's not. He's going to come back. I can't see him being a defensive coordinator,
or at least
I just don't see it.
I think if he comes back, it's only as a head coach, and it's either and it would be the NFL or maybe go back to college, right? Like
Yeah.
Maybe he goes to Stanford or something, right? Like to revive a program. That would be great. But I mean, if for whatever reason they were able to bring him in, I'd be fine with that. That would be perfectly fine with me. I think Pete Carroll is a brilliant defensive mind, and I think it helps Kyle Shanahan.
For a year or two, he's 74. That's the other thing. If you want to get a guy, we're hoping if you get a guy in and he doesn't leave, and Salah might, if he's getting head coaching interest now and he has another good couple years, he might go again. I'm not saying that's not the case, but Pete Carroll is like a real quick Band-Aid. To me, Pete Carroll feels like, oh shit, we waited really long. Let's see if Pete's interested. And if Salah does have this interview Thursday, Friday, whatever it is, in Jacksonville, and if they are going to extend their search, that's going to be another 2-3 weeks.
Right.
And at that point, the Niners are going to be right back where they were last year with not much to choose from. I mean, Eberflus is still out there, right? But they've shown no interest in him.
Nope. Haven't brought him in.
No. So it's like the Niners are still like, they're going to be right where they were last year with, okay, well, I guess we got to settle for Sorensen and Staley because there's really nobody else out there. It's going to be the same thing. Same with the special team coordinator. Like, what are you waiting for, man?
Honestly, it just like outside of the DC, not making sense. Like, I get you've targeted your guy Robert Saleh and you're waiting. Like, I don't agree with it, but I see the vision. What is the vision with special teams? I don't get it. And I believe Barrows and Kawakami both said that it. And again, they didn't say that they have sources saying or whatever, but they did have some conjecture that possibly some of the top special teams coordinator guys don't want anything to do with coordinating special teams for Kyle Shanahan because Kyle Shanahan won't let them do anything because he doesn't give a shit about special teams. And
did they say that really?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they said that Kyle Shanahan wouldn't let them let them run some of the stuff that they run because, he's
just punt the ball and get it over.
Risk averse, if you will.
Yeah.
That's not the word I wanted to use, but it's what I used. Risk averse. He is risk averse when it comes to special teams and fourth down calls and things like that. But yeah, again, and one of the names that they brought in for special teams coordinator, Chris Banjo, now seems like he is the likely special teams coordinator for Aaron Glenn in New York. So there's one name already off the list of guys that they brought in. So again, the less we hear about more guys coming in, the more it just seems like Nick Sorensen is going to be the special. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't get it. I just don't get it.
And again, if the other thing is too, like, so what happens with Sorensen and Staley? What are their roles?
They're not the guys. Yeah.
Right. So if Sorensen's not special teams coach, what are you going to do with him? Because they haven't fired him. Right.
Right.
Right. And Brandon Staley was the assistant head coach. Robert Saleh is not going to come in there and be like, oh, Brandon, what do you think I should do with the whatever DC you're likely bringing in there? You would hope they're running their scheme and get the hell out of here. Like, I'm running my defense. They're not going to have Brandon Staley looking over their shoulder or whatever the hell it is Brandon Staley does. So yeah, I don't know what the thought process is. It is a little bit frustrating for sure. It's crazy with the Niners. Like, they just, even when they're really successful, they just do these things that are like roundabout and weird. And you're always like, what is happening? That's kind of what I feel like right now with this.
Yeah. It just, like I said, I use process with quotation marks every time I talk about it on Twitter because there just doesn't seem to be one. And, again, it's like, what are you doing? Like, what are you guys doing at 4949, Denise P. DeBartolo way or whatever, right? Like, it just seems like you're indifferent towards your defensive coordinator and your special teams coordinator because a proactive approach would have likely netted at least a special teams coordinator by now. And again, like, I would love someone to ask the question of Kyle Shanahan, why are you waiting on a special teams coordinator hire? Like, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for?
Yeah. Yep. It's a great question. Yes. I feel like somebody needs to ask him or Lynch or something next time Lynch is on KMBR or whatever. Like, what's the holdup? What are we waiting for? What is the plan?
I've been working with a Nourish dietitian for the last 6 months, and it's been life-changing. I've lost weight, healed my relationship with food, and have way more energy. Working with a dietitian online to create a personalized nutrition plan was so easy thanks to Nourish. The best part? I pay $0 out of pocket because Nourish accepts hundreds of insurance plans. 94% of patients pay $0 out of pocket. Find your dietitian at usenourish.com. That's usenourish.com.
So it's a new year, 2025, and you're thinking, how am I going to make this year different? How am I going to build something for myself? But where do I start? Shopify is how you're going to make it happen, and here's how. Shopify makes it simple to create your brand, open for business, and get your first sale. The best time to start your new business is right now. Get your store up and running easily with thousands of customizable templates, no coding or design skills required. All you need to do is drag and drop. Their powerful social media tools let you connect all your channels and create shoppable posts and help you sell everywhere people scroll. What happens if you don't act now? Will you regret it? What if someone beats you to the idea? Don't kick yourself when you hear this again in a year because you didn't do anything now. With Shopify, your first sale is closer than you think. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast to start selling with Shopify today. Shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast.
Brian, I did want to talk about today. I forgot about this until just now. I wanted to talk about the refs a little bit.
Yes.
So we have a job talking about football, and we're invested in the league and everything else. So like this matters to us, right? Like there are a lot bigger things in life than football, but this is part of what we do. It's part of our life. It's a part-time job for us, but still a job. Yeah. We do this. So we're very into the NFL and what happens and what's best for the NFL and all that stuff. I'm not the type of person who typically thinks that the refs are against a team or for a team. I just think they're largely incompetent and they don't use common sense. And by common sense, I mean, okay, this borderline call with 3 minutes left in the game that's going to affect the outcome of the game. I'm not going to call that borderline call because it's borderline. It can go either way. I'm not going to fix the outcome of this game. I don't feel like they have that. I just think they're all stupid. Whatever direction they're getting from the NFL or whatever it is, there's just a level of incompetence there that is quite frankly hurts the product. Having said that, watching the Chiefs and the Texans this weekend made it real tough for me to think that there's not something weird going on. And I still don't fully believe that. But good for Troy Aikman and Joe Buck, who have a very big national stage, to frankly call out the refs in the NFL and Troy Aikman say, this needs to get fixed. There were 2 calls in the game. I'm sure most people know what I'm talking about. The first was roughing the passer on Patrick Mahomes. They said he got hit in the face. He did not. Now, bang, bang, I'll buy that. Maybe he thought that he did because it was fast and you don't know. I'll buy that. The second call where Mahomes slid and the 2 defenders just hit each other, didn't even hit him. And that was one of the worst calls I have ever seen. And if the NFL, if your officials can't get this stuff right and it's affecting the outcomes of games, and it is, both of those drives, they kept the drives going. The Chiefs gets points out of those. It affects the game. Hell, the Super Bowl a few years ago, it was a holding call on the Eagles. They don't call anything. And then you call that stuff. That's against the 49ers in 2019. They let everything go, which is fine. Then why are you calling the push off against George Kittle, the offensive pass interference at the end of the first half? That took 3 points likely off the board for the 49ers at least. When that stuff happens, it hurts the game. And if they cannot figure it out, if these officials cannot get it right, and you can't hire different officials or full-time officials or whatever it is, then make everything reviewable. That's the only way to fix it.
There. That's the key right there.
Everything reviewable, because those 2 plays, okay, they're bang, bang. We got to look at this. We need replay assist. They both get reversed. You cannot have these big games. And people say, well, until people stop watching, they're not going to care. There are millions of dollars on these games. The NFL has embraced sports betting, millions a week on these games. You cannot have officials deciding them. You just can't. So the product isn't going to go away. Nobody's going to stop watching the NFL because of it. People will get mad. People are mad. But when it's affecting the product on the field, when it's starting to affect the bottom line, which it is in terms of the sports gambling thing, it really is. The NFL has to step in and do something. And I think the answer for that is to make everything reviewable. Now, I hope against all hope, especially because, the Bills are my mistress. Love the Bills. I'm rooting for the Bills this weekend.
Same.
I hope the NFL isn't maybe more concerned about showing Taylor Swift and Clayton Clark 25 times at the Super Bowl than they are about maybe, having a fairly officiated game. And I never believed that. I never did. But I'm starting to wonder a little bit. And that's a little scary. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe it's a conspiracy theory. I don't know.
And I've said it before. I think part of the thing that's most frustrating is that there are easy solutions to a lot of these problems. A lot of these officiating problems have very simple solutions. One of them is an eye in the sky camp, right? Just like they have in soccer, right? Or even if you don't want to go that route, you have one official in New York in charge of each game, right? So you have one official per game. And if a call on the field is obviously incorrect, that official buzzes in and they say, hey, review, right? And then they say, hey, we need to overturn that was not a penalty. It wouldn't be that difficult. They've expedited review already, right? It's a lot better than it used to be. I mean, it used to be a clunker, right? They would throw the flag and it'd be like almost a damn near like a 10-minute interruption in the game, right? Because it took them forever. They've expedited that. Use that to your advantage, right? That's what I mean. Like, there are easy solutions to this because, like you said, it is a bang difficult job. I don't begrudge the refs because it is a difficult job, but because it is a difficult job, there needs to be some level of accountability to help those refs out when they make incorrect calls, because they always will. It's the human element, right? And so, it would have been easy on that penalty, that especially I think the first one, the minute that his helmet touches his face mask, like, they're going to call that every time. And that's fine. I don't think I could disagree with it, but they're going to call that, right? Because it's player safety. But because it's player safety, let's make sure that we get it right every time.
Right.
And, it was very evident from the first replay that second one where he slid late, which, by the way, he does all the goddamn time. He baits these defend, and there's nothing that these defenders can do, right? He milks these rules, right? Just like that bullshit flop on the sideline. I couldn't believe that they didn't call a penalty. Grateful that they didn't. I would have been even more upset if they did, but they didn't, and I appreciated that. But so that second one, right? It would have taken a minute for that to be reversed and be like, actually, New York chimed in. There was no contact to the head of Patrick Mahomes. We are picking up this flag, whatever, right? Third down and whatever. And it would be easy. That's why I don't understand why they don't do it. And because there are easy solutions and they continue to refuse to do those solutions, that's when you start to look at and start to get a little bit conspiratorial, because it's like, there's no reason for you not to do these things. So the fact that you're not and you're refusing to do them tells me that there's a reason why you don't want it to happen.
Yeah.
And what is that reason? You know what I mean? So that's where I'm like, if you want to engender the trust of your fans, right, then you do the easy solutions that help with these problems, and you stop having it be a storyline every week almost, right?
It doesn't seem like they care. That's the frustrating thing. It doesn't seem like the officials care. Like, I don't know who gets to talk to the officials, but somebody had asked that Clay Martin was the official. Someone had asked him a couple questions about those two calls. And he was, no, letter of the law. They were correct calls. They were the correct. Just like,
no, they weren't.
Like, hey man,
especially the second one,
right? That's the way that I saw it.
Yeah,
it's what if I missed it, whatever. But they don't do that. They're like, no, that was the right call. And the same thing with Goodell. We don't have an officiating problem. Yes, you do. Yeah. Everyone sees it. You have a huge officiating problem in the league. It affects the outcome of games. It affects the product, and you have to fix it. Until it hits them in the wallet, they probably will continue not to care. But I don't understand common sense wise how you can't look at that and be like, all right, these are our biggest games of the year. We can't
Mhm.
we can't have this.
No.
We can't have the officials throwing flags here. We can't. Troy Aikman and Joe Buck, okay, regardless of what you think of them, they're the Monday Night Football. They're national announcers, right? Monday Night Football announcers. Troy Aikman is a huge voice in the league. When those guys on that platform are like, I mean, that was as animated as I've heard them about something like that.
Mm-hmm.
When they're calling you out in a divisional playoff game like that, you better start taking notice, because they're talking to the fans, they're talking to the public. And it's been a storyline this week. People asked Mahomes about it today, and he was like, oh, I don't think we get calls. I just think the refs are doing the best job that they can. You get calls.
Oh, yeah, because you benefit from it.
Right. And there was the call in the Bills game. Was it 2 years ago? I don't remember, where Kelsey, did they call him forward? I don't remember. It was something that changed I apologize. I don't remember what the call was. But Mahomes went crazy in that game. He said something to Allen after the game about the call. Like, oh, it was a garbage call, man. When they talked, when they met at the beginning of the field and middle of the field. And I forgot, I gotta look it up now, what the hell the call was. But he bitched about it for the whole game and then afterwards. So yeah, when it doesn't work your way, you bitch about it too. But everything has broken their way. And the Patriots had a really fortunate run. I mean, the Patriots had a lot of luck during their run, but I don't remember
the Tuck rule,
the calls like that going to them. Yeah. I mean, they had the ball bounce a certain way. I mean, the Tuck rule, yeah, but by the letter of the law, that was right at the time.
Right.
But a lot of things were just stupid with them, like a ball would bounce a certain way or whatever. But calls like this, I can't think of another team other than the Chiefs who's had the benefit of it for this long.
Well, and like you said,
happened.
the only way it's going to change is if it starts to cost them money. But I would say another way is if it costs Vegas money, right? Like if a blown call costs Vegas enough money, I guarantee Vegas is going to say something to Roger Goodell, right? And listen, you've embraced sports betting, right? You've embraced it with your league. So that is now a part of what you have to consider when it comes to stuff like this. And there's going to be a situation where a call goes one way that, again, loses Vegas a boatload of money, and Vegas is going to be like, hey, we can't have that anymore, right? You gotta be able to review these calls. And so I think we just have to wait for that. And I don't know, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know, obviously it would be a heavy favorite ending up losing, right? But or I guess it would be an underdog coming through or whatever, right? Just whatever situation causes Vegas to be like, hey, we can't have this happen again, right? We can't have a game hinge on the call of one official because it we're talking millions and millions and millions of dollars. And I just don't understand why you don't want your product to get it right every time. Like that just doesn't make sense to me. There's no reason, legitimately no reason why you can't implement some of these solutions so that you are getting it right every time.
Yeah.
So like I said, the fact that you continue to balk against doing those things feeds into the narrative that there is something fishy.
Our producer Spencer said it was an offensive offside. That's right. Again, with the Bills and the Chiefs, whether it was 2 years ago or whatever it was, and Mahomes went nuts. And he said something to Allen, not blaming Allen, but just like when they were saying 2023, when they were just congratulating each other after the game, he was like, oh, that call was bullshit, blah, blah, blah. And then he was talking about it at the press after about the call. So don't give me that you think the minute it goes against you, you whine and cried and went nuts.
Right.
So don't act now all like on your high horse about the officials when everything goes your way. I hope that there's been enough talk about it and pressure that they do keep the flags in their pockets in the AFC Championship and the NFC Championship and let it be decided on the field. We'll see if that happens though. But I hope, Brian, against all hope, that we have the Bills and the Commanders.
Yes, that is the dream. That is the dream. Because I'll tell you what, if it's Chiefs Eagles again, I'm rooting for, I don't know, aliens.
The commercials? I don't know. Yeah. What are we like?
Yeah, because let me ask you a question, because I don't know the answer. I legitimately don't know the answer. What would you rather watch? The Chiefs three-peat or the Eagles win a Super Bowl?
the Eagles win a Super Bowl. And that's asking me, do you want to get stabbed with like this fork or this knife? Like it doesn't. Like,
yeah.
Either way. Do
you want to get stabbed or do you want to get shot? Like,
right.
I would like neither, please. Thank you.
But if that's the Super Bowl, maybe it's the There's No God Bowl if that happens. But
right.
It's I'll be honest with you. Not that I'm not somebody who like has favorite players or anything like that, but just again, caring about the league, seeing Saquon on that platform, that would be kind of cool.
Sure.
I wouldn't mind seeing Saquon in the Super Bowl with how great he's been this year and everything like that. I could live with that. I could buy that. Other than that, they're not a redeeming quality. I don't know. I like Fangio. Maybe that's a redeeming quality, but the Chiefs, there's not a single solitary, not one. I'll
be honest, Al. I know that the Bills are your Gumar, but in that game, going into that game, I was actually hoping for a Ravens win simply because I thought the Ravens had a better shot at beating the Chiefs. With the way that their offense has been operating and Derrick Henry, and it's going to be cold, and just thinking about, trying to hit Derrick Henry in the cold like that. Like, I just felt like they would have a better opportunity. But with that being said, before the playoffs even started, my number one rooting interest was Josh Allen, and it remains that. So I do hope that the Bills not only get past the Chiefs, but win the Super Bowl. I want it for Josh Allen. I want it for Buffalo fan base, right? The just to get a little bit of, I don't know, revenge for the 4 straight losses in the 90s, right? To kind of scrub that from the memory a little bit just by getting one. Like that's the storyline for me. And then as the playoffs have progressed, dude, Jaden Daniels is so fun. He's so fun to watch.
What a game on Saturday night. That rainbow 50-yard bomb that he threw.
Oh my God.
may have been the best pass I've ever seen. When he threw it, I'm like, it was like 100 feet in the air. And I'm like, this is gonna
I was like, no way.
It was the best pass I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, he's just unflappable. He's always got a smile on his face. He's good for the game. Even though Detroit, for as awful as their defense played, if Goff doesn't turn the ball over, they probably win that game by 2 scores. So 2 things I want to say. The first, Ben Johnson, everybody loves Ben Johnson. The Lions have a 7-3 lead, and they were around the Commanders' 20-ish yard line. 3rd and 1, they go empty. Jameer Gibbs is not even on the field. Yeah. You go empty, and your quarterback gets stripped. Change the whole game. If they just play their game and run the ball there, they probably score, and it's a totally different game. And then the Bills. The Bills did everything they could to lose that game. That was vintage Sean McDermott. They couldn't stop the Ravens at all, other than those 3 turnovers, which, Lamar overthrows the ball. I don't know what the hell happened on his fumble. Andrews gets it punched out. Those things don't happen. They'd have given up 40 points. I mean, the defense was terrible. You have the play where you're 3rd and goal from the 1 yard line. You have Josh Allen. You just push it twice and go up by 2 scores. Mm-hmm. They don't do it. They do a QB power, which everybody in the world knew was coming from shotgun. The Ravens go right down the
shotgun.
field.
That was the other thing.
Yeah. Well, what are you doing? Yeah. And the Ravens go right down the field because that's what Sean McDermott's defense does at the end of playoff games. And then they should have tied it, but Andrews drops the ball. That stuff usually goes against the Bills. It didn't. So maybe the tide is turning, but they did everything and they could to lose that game.
It could be. And here's where I think I'm different in that I understood why Sean McDermott kicked the field goal in that regard. Right. The last 3 heartbreaking playoff losses that Josh Allen and the Bills have experienced have been in situations where Josh Allen was brilliant and didn't get the ball back with an opportunity to win the game. Right. And so by going up by 8, you at least guarantee that Josh Allen is going to get the ball again to try and lead you guys down for a scoring opportunity. And so in my mind, I think that's probably where they went. Like, listen, if we kick the field goal here, we cannot lose. We cannot lose this game in regulation. But if we go for it on 4th and we don't get it, and then they march down the field and they score and we lose, and Josh Allen loses another playoff game where he doesn't get an opportunity, I think they can't live with themselves. So I understood the field goal, but I think the thing that I was like, man, is their second half offensive philosophy, right? So they go into half up 21-10, right? And it was like they were content with that. Like, hey, we scored 21. They only have 10, right? Like, we just need to, control the ball and bleed out the clock and get this victory. And it's like, you should have come out because you got the ball in the second half. You needed to come out and put the dagger in, put the nail in the coffin, score a touchdown, right? And it just felt like it felt like they were just content to, to possess the ball for as long as they could in hopes that, they could wait out the Ravens. And I just felt like that was a bit of a, I don't know, a coward.
Well, you're playing not to lose,
if you will.
You usually lose that way. And I don't disagree with you on the field goal. It was more the third down call. Because if you do a twitch push there, then you're at worst on the goal line, basically, if you don't get it. But once they stuffed him and it was like from the 2.5, whatever it was, I said, you probably got to kick the field goal now, but you did that to yourself. So that's what worries me in this game. Like Spags, everything we say about Andy Reid, part of the reason for this Chiefs run, Andy Reid has arguably the best defensive coordinator and the best special teams coordinator, Dave Toub.
Yep.
Toub, however you say it, in the league.
Toub.
That makes a big difference too, as we're talking about the coaches that we have today. Like, I hate the Chiefs and I'm tired of the Chiefs, but they're well coached on every level. And that makes a big difference too. So,
you should be well coaced on special teams. That should be something.
Apparently.
Okay.
That's what I hear.
That's what I hear. Tell Kyle Shanahan.
But yeah, Brian, I'm not even gonna pick. I'm just gonna say I want the Bills and the Commanders.
Yes.
That's really what I'm going for here. So that's what I'm gonna say.
Yes, agreed. The Commanders beat the Eagles earlier this season, but it was with Kenny Pickett at quarterback. But when the Eagles beat the Commanders prior to that, Jane Daniels was playing hurt. So this is the first time that Jane Daniels will be, will be whole. The Eagles will have Jalen Hurts. I think it's going to be a good game. I'll be interested to see what Vic Fangio brings to the table to try and slow down Jane Daniels, because like you said, he seems unflappable. There are two stories that came out of this past weekend that I found fascinating. The first one is about Jane Daniels, that basically as he was going through the draft process and teams, interviewing with teams, one of the things he said is, here's something that I am going to demand of whatever team takes me is he uses VR. And he uses VR to get mental reps. And not only does he use VR, but he goes through all of these plays and these mental reps at 1.75 speed, right? So it speeds up his processing as he's diagnosing the defense and all that stuff. And I think that's fascinating. And it seems like the future of the NFL. And he seems like he's kind of revolutionizing the position, if you will. And the second one being that last I checked, I believe Bills fans have donated upwards of like $30,000 to Mark Andrews, charity. So that was 60,000. It's up to $60,000. I love Bills fans. I love Bills fans.
Gotta love them. Yeah. Good people. Unlike Philly fans, but
yes, exactly.
Good people. All right, we got to get out of here. Thanks everybody. For Brian, I'm Al.
Later.
9-0-3. 1, 2, 3. Hey!
2400 Sports is an Odyssey company.
What's better than watching your team win? Winning money while you do it. I'm Jim Costa, and on Cash the Ticket, Mike Valeni and I give you the edge to make every game playable. College football, NFL, we're breaking it all down game by game. Your podcast feed is going to be filled, and you're going to love it. You can click on the games you care about. We do it all. With our analysis, we're finding games that other people aren't talking about. We're turning every Saturday and every Sunday into days where you got a chance to win. Don't just sit on the sidelines. Cash the Ticket with us. Follow Cash the Ticket in the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.